Hey everyone, this is Arnold and welcome to this video. Today we're going to talk about what is consulting. Now, this is a career that often many people are interested in these days. It's either software or consulting. Investment banking seems like the career of 10 years ago. So today we're going to talk about what it is, who does the consulting, why do companies even hire consultants, the types of consulting, where consulting is performed, and finally, how do you actually consult? So just a little bit of background into consulting. I manage consulting based in Washington, D.C. I previously worked at Deloitte in their consulting practice, specifically in their technology strategy practice, and I currently work at a boutique management consulting firm. So I'm looking to share my perspective in terms of what I learned over the years in consulting, and hopefully it can give you a better idea as to whether it's something that you like to pursue. Okay, so firstly, let's talk about what is consulting exactly. Well, consulting is when an organization or a person provides advice to a person or organization. There's a whole range of possibilities where consulting is performed. For example, it could be that a CEO would like advice on how to enter the textiles market. They would hire consultants that have knowledge in the textiles market to provide them advice as to how they want to go about entering that market. Or it could even be a company needs to implement a new payroll system and they might hire consultants to help them develop, implement, and deploy the solution. There's a whole range of consulting that's performed both on a management level and a technology level. And this is what most firms do. So the next question is, who does the actual consulting? Well, there's generally two main categories of organization that does consulting. One are external consultants. So these are companies that an organization may hire externally that will perform the consulting services. The second option are internal consultants. So this is possibly a division or a team within a large organization generally that will perform consulting services. So your big banks generally have their internal consultants. Your large insurance firms probably have their own consultants. Now the second category are external consultants. Within external consulting companies, there's generally a couple of categories of companies that perform consulting services. One is the Big Four, historically audit organizations that now perform consulting services. So this is Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, and EY. They generally have large consulting houses within their organization that will perform consulting services with organizations across the world. The second type is generally the more dedicated consulting firms that are at the highest caliber. In terms of reputation, in terms of cost, these are generally the most well-known consulting firms. The couple here are McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and you've also got LEK, for example. AZ Kearney are also among this list. And then finally, you've got your boutique consulting firms. So these are generally small firms, possibly between 10 to 100 people, where they would perform more niche consulting services. Maybe they have a more dedicated practice, could be very niche towards HR, or towards technology consulting, or towards technology strategy consulting. So this begs the next question: why do companies even hire consultants? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Number one is that they might not have the capabilities to do it in-house. Maybe they're looking at an area of knowledge where they do not have staff trained in. It might be easier to just hire a bunch of consultants rather than hire new staff, train them, and integrate them into the organization. The second reason may be that they want a more third-party or objective lens to the problem at hand. Maybe there's a political sort of fight between the CEO and the COO, for example. They have differing opinions. They might hire a consultant to mediate the two perspectives and provide their own perspective. And finally, the third reason is to validate their own hypothesis or findings. Maybe they would hire a consultant to validate their strategy, to say that, oh, so-and-so consulting company has agreed with my strategy to enter the balloon market, so it must be a great idea. So these are generally the few reasons why companies may hire consultants. And if you know any, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. Now the next question is, what kind of consulting services do organizations generally look for? Well, there's generally two broad categories of consulting. Number one is management consulting, and number two is technology consulting. So management consulting is management advice. Generally, it is a recommendation, perhaps it is a PowerPoint deck that outlines a strategy in which a CEO needs to enter the balloon market. Maybe they need to do X and Y and Z before they can officially and successfully enter the balloon market. Now, contrast this with technology consulting. Technology consulting is generally a piece of software that is delivered to a client. So let's say a client needs to create the system to facilitate the balloon market. Maybe it's a sort of customer relationship management software to manage this new market. They may hire technology consultants to help them develop that piece of software. So generally by the end of that engagement, at the end of that project, they would hand over and deploy potentially the code that is this balloon customer relationship management software. And then the next question is, where is consulting generally performed? Well, historically and generally speaking, consulting is performed at the client site. Consultants would generally fly across the country or across even the world in order to get on the client organization's headquarters or office in order to perform their consulting services. So maybe they need to be on site to actually interact with the infrastructure and the system in order to effectively develop the code, or they need to be on site with the management team and provide them with interviews and speak to them in order to really gain the knowledge required in order to facilitate the consulting services. However, because of the recent socioeconomic conditions, consulting services are now being performed generally at home or at the office. For me, for example, I'm doing all of my work at home. Even when we do travel, however, generally it is Monday to Thursday. So you would travel out to the client site on Monday morning and then stay in a hotel for 3 nights and then return on Thursday afternoon. On Friday, you generally go into your consulting office in your home city, or you might even work from home. But generally, Monday to Thursday is a bit of a ghost town if you ever go into the office in your consulting office. And on Fridays, it is chaos. You can't even find a seat. We had to share desks in my last office, which was really fun, to be honest. Now, the last question we're going to answer today is, how is consulting performed? How are the projects structured? What is the team like? So we'll dive into that. Generally, there are different types of projects between management and technology consulting, and it ranges widely depending on your client's industry, depending on your client's function. Now, let's dive into the team structure a little bit. Generally speaking, a team is organized by a couple of levels. Firstly, you have the partner, who's the main point of interaction with the client. Generally, they interact with the client counterparts. So that's generally the C-suite level client. So that's like the CIO or the CHRO or the CEO even. And then you've got your remaining members of the team. You've got your engagement manager, who is generally day-to-day operations for the consulting project. They would assign tasks, they would chair meetings, facilitate meetings within the consulting team in order to effectively drive success for the project. And then your third category of staff is generally your working team. So these are the consultants, the analysts. There's different levels of consultants and analysts, senior consultants, etc. But generally speaking, they would work as part of the working team in order to create the deliverables, perhaps run a few interviews, and really put together the outcome of the consulting engagement. So this could be a PowerPoint deliverable, or in a technology consulting example, they might be writing the code. So now let's dive into the project structure. Now, this is generally quite different across every consulting project, but in a management consulting sense, generally speaking, here are the various steps. Firstly, you would have a project kickoff. This is a meeting with the client and your working team to kick off the project and officially say, hooray, we're starting the project, this is what we're gonna do, this is the team, etc. And then you've potentially got interviews. Let's say you're interviewing with the various team members of the client in order to gather information. In this stage, you also possibly do document review. You would gather artifacts from the client and analyze and make conclusions from them. And then next, potentially you'd have a workshop. You'd have a workshop with the client organization, with the whole team, to gather ideas, to gather feedback, and to really come up with a solution together. And then after this workshop, you might have more document analysis considering the outcome from the workshop. And then finally, you would develop your final deliverable. So this may be the recommendation that you would develop based on the workshops, the document analysis, and the interviews that you've just performed. So this all culminates in a final presentation to the client. You would say, hooray, we've done all this work, this is our final deliverable, and this is what we recommend you to do. So generally speaking, in a management consulting sense, this is how a project is structured. So that's it for this video. Hope you found this helpful. What consulting is, demystifying what consulting is and how people do it and who does the consulting, and hopefully informed whether you actually want to get into this field. In a later video, we'll dive into the actual day in the life of a consultant. So that's it for me today. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to see more content. Hope you have a good rest of your day and see you in the next video.